already feel good just hearing that little intro, seeing that More Than Mind. And look who's back. Our Dr. Shaheem. Many of you very, very familiar over the past few years, the time and the work that we have been putting on social media. We have a very special story and now a very special home because we are back.
Yes, amazing. So good to see you, Shelley, and be here co-piloting with you on More Than Mind and diving into these different conversations and really exploring the psychology of everyday life.
Because everyday life, Dr. Shaheem, I know you will agree with me, and I talk to a million people every day who say the same. It feels like it's getting harder and harder and more complicated, and sometimes more lonely to figure out like what am I supposed to do? Who can help me? And that's where More Than Mind even started a few years ago. Was from that those very simple questions.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some real issues that require, medical professional help, clinical help. And then there's the sort of stuff that happens in between, the knots of life, the bruises of the life. And those are the topics that you and I address together here. And remember, for everyone listening, that this is not one size fits all advice. It's information that we share with you, and then for you to go and unpack it further and broaden and deepen your understanding about what that is, and then relate it to your own life so that it fits rather than trying to force it.
Every time we sit down and we do some work here, and I'm so grateful for your time that you've given us over the years. I know I'm not the only one who leaves these sessions going and the questions and the thinking starts to happen, and that's where really magic starts to happen, is when you start the
Yeah. And you know what, Shelley? That's all that matters. Being aware and awake to it is the first step of healing, of seeking help, of improving and developing. And we're also very mindful of the fact that there's an overwhelming amount of psychological noise and opinions and advice, especially on social media. And so, we often talk about this, how I feel like it's my sort of moral and social responsibility to try and help people filter through what's unhelpful, what's not valid, what's not empirical, what's not research based. So we want to focus on the creating those insights for people having those light bulb moments, that's and insights that are rooted in research, not just rhetoric or personal opinion.
and today's topic that you chose, what a way to kick this all off, because this is going to make you go I promise you, it's going to make you go What are we peeling back and talking about today, Dr. Shaim?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this impacts all of us to varying degrees. And the topic that we're going to look at today is, why do we often hurt the people closest to us? Why are we cruelest to the people we love most? And to kind of set this up and to look at what we mean by this, I want you to imagine from the time we wake up in the morning, we manage our impressions, right? We, in terms of what we wear and how we dress and how we speak and how we interact with different people, whether it's our colleagues or the person working at the grocery store and the restaurant, we manage our impressions. But then something very interesting happens. We come home and that self management slips. And what happens is that we're not as polite anymore. We may snap at the kids or snap at our partner, even for the smallest stuff. Sound familiar?
I want to go in my shirt. I want to hide. Yes, yes, yes. I was just telling some of my colleagues about that feeling, and then it feels horrible because we love. I love my kids. I love my husband, but I see it and I see it happening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where did that come from?
Yeah, where did that come from? And I want you to think about that for a minute. How do you feel when you're at home with Brucey and the kids?
On the good days, on the
On the
normal.
good, yeah, on average.
On average, I feel happy. It's my favorite place to be. I feel love. I feel peaceful. I feel good.
Yeah, and safe,
Oh, for sure. My safety
right?
zone. Yeah.
Safety zone, and that's one of the biggest elements associated with why we snap where we nap. As my son says, be careful, don't snap where you nap. I think people will remember this topic with that sentiment.
Oh, don't snap where you nap. Yeah, that you probably don't want to do that.
No, and one of the reasons we do it is because we feel safe. So your home, your brain sees your home as a safe zone, right? It knows you're not being watched or judged like in public or in the professional spaces. Maybe you've done it a number of times before and there hasn't been any dire consequences, but in public spaces, we know that there may be other consequences. So we drop the mask. This is called emotional demasking. You become unfiltered, you become raw, sometimes reactive. And it's not because you're trying to hurt, it's really your nervous system saying, oh, I can finally let it out. Are we
Yes.
good?
No, we're good. We're good.
I heard something drop.
No, it was just my little AirPod thing fell out of my ear. No, but I'm listening to
Okay.
you. All aspects of
I
the day, I'm
lost.
listening to you. I'm here.
Okay, yeah. So it's our nervous system saying, "Oh, I can finally let it out. I can express myself." And with strangers and acquaintances, of course, you're on high alert. We are managing our impressions. I wouldn't go as far as to say we're performing, but to a certain extent, we are managing our impressions. But with loved ones, you're in the rest state, and sometimes, unfortunately, that rest becomes reckless. Now, Shelley, when we were talking about the format of these sessions, we decided that it was really important for people to be able to apply what we're talking about to
Yes,
themselves. So each session, when we introduce a topic, we're going to have a list of questions that
I
people can
love my
read,
son.
relate to themselves. And then at the end, we also have 3 reflection or coaching questions that people can focus on and explore further so they can do the work in between sessions. Should we look at what those
Yes.
assessment questions
You
are?
know the questions when you ask questions, my favorite time, because it really makes you like think, right? This is gonna
Right.
make you think.
And it brings the subject to life, doesn't it?
Sure does. I don't know how I feel
Okay.
about these questions. Let's do it, Dr. Shaheem.
I know it stings a little bit. I know. So, why we hurt the ones closest to us? First one, do you find yourself snapping at loved ones over minor issues? Okay. Now,
Mm.
this is an interesting one because you may not be snapping in relation to the question of, hey, what's for dinner? There may be something that's underlying in that. So, good one to explore. Have you ever withheld affection to make a point? Okay. Do you feel more comfortable expressing frustration to close ones, people who are closer, than to acquaintances? Have you blamed a partner for your own stress or failures, right? So,
Oh, 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 oh,
right? Tell
oh.
me, tell me what you're thinking about that one.
No, I'm just answering a lot of yeses. Ew.
Yeah. And so instead of, as opposed to owning what you're feeling and saying, yep, this is about me having a really stressful, bad day, people often double down, and turn the table and blame the other person, which just, hurts matters even more. Do you expect loved ones to understand your moods without explanations? How are we supposed to know? One of the most challenging cognitive biases is mind reading.
Mm.
We can't assume, right? And we can't sort of fill the gaps of nonverbal when verbal communication is missing. So, and have you criticized a loved one for traits you dislike in yourself? And to give you an example, let's say you are feeling irritable and snappy, and in fact, you again sort of project onto them and say, why are you being so irritable and snappy, when they bring to your attention what you're doing and what you're saying. Do you feel guilty after lashing out at someone close? And that often the answer is yes, very much, right? Have you ended conversations abruptly with loved ones during disagreements, saying things like, fine, have it your way. It's obvious you're in a bad mood, and walking off. So that being in
Oh,
the loop, rather than resolving it more effectively. Do you find it hard to apologize to those closest to you? And have you noticed a pattern of being harsher on family than on friends or colleagues? Again, going back to what we were saying earlier about that emotional safety testing and emotional demasking. Now, what's coming up for you as you were looking at the questions?
a lot of very vivid moments and scenarios in my life where this stuff, either for me, for my husband, or situations that I have seen in my own family. I'm answering yes to some of these questions.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the reasons, and one of it that may be more subconscious or unconscious, is unprocessed childhood dynamics, Shali. And what happens is sometimes we recreate familiar emotional environments that we experienced in childhood. So, whether that was chaos, conflict, or criticism, because they feel known or they feel familiar, or somewhere along the way we thought, well, that's the way it should be. And if your environments came with tension or with volatility, if you observed patterns of behavior in which one partner, your mom or dad, would snap at the other person without particular reason or without any sort of logical explanation, then you may sort of your brain may confuse that with that's how people make connection through conflict
That is
without even
fascinating.
realizing
That is
it.
fascinating. So you're saying if you grew up in a childhood where that's where you saw, that's what was familiar to you, without really trying to do it on purpose, we are creating those scenarios and that energy back into our life because it's familiar to us, because that's what we know.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Because think about it, much of our programming and our, what we learn is through socialization and observation. And how often do we sit back and open those folders and ask, wait a minute, when I was told that I should behave in this way when I come home or when I observed it, is that right or wrong? So we live in autopilot. We live in default modality. We repeat these observed patterns and behaviors rather than standing back and saying, why am I doing that? What would be a better response? And my most favorite question is, how would we all benefit if I redesigned this scenario? Because we have options, right? Between snapping and, being the sweetest, most loving, unconditional individual, you have this massive continuum of options that you can pull from. And so snapping is just one reaction that you can have. There's so many other things that you could say, such as, honey, I'm exhausted.
oh,
And this is not about you. Really, it's not, but I just have no words right now. I have no words. Nothing will come out. I was talking to my mom the other day, was saying, I didn't hear from you yesterday. And I said, Mama, I'm so sorry. I couldn't talk. And you would have not had the best version of me or even a good version of me if we did talk, because, I was drained. So another reason why this happens, Shali, is that if people don't have proper regulation rituals, like give me an example. What's a good regulation ritual that you use?
With me, dance.
Dance. Thank you. Their therapy. Excuse me. Of course. And
There's
now,
nothing
don't
a
you
good shadow shop at a patio won't fix in my soul.
yeah, fantastic. And don't you love all this research that's coming out right now and looking at the profound effect that dance can have on psychological health and well being and longevity? I love
Yes.
it. Right? So if people don't have that kind of, you know, regulation, emotional regulation rituals, what happens is when you're stressed, then your brain will often search for a place to decompress, to offload. And unfortunately, it chooses the safest place and the safest people. And the reason is because often those people stay. Whereas if you do it in other settings or contexts, there will be consequences.
Consequences. You're right. That's a really good way to look at it. Because if you do unload and behave in this way, where's like husband and wife going to go right at the beginning? Where are the kids going to go at the beginning? It may build up over time. After 10 or
Yeah.
15 years, somebody might say, hey, it's enough, but do this to your colleague, do it to a stranger on the street, do it to the person at Starbucks. Yeah, that's not going to fly.
And how is it that we don't have that endless reservoir of patience and emotional regulation for our husbands or for our wife? How is it that it's why, where in our minds did we decide it's okay to snap at them while be, polite to strangers? And I often hear this from people in sessions, Shali, where they say, oh, we've just drifted apart in our relationships. It's not the same as it used to be. Well, you know why it's not the same as it used to be? Because you don't treat each other the way that you used to be.
Oh,
Right? And when you don't treat each other like it used to be, guess what? I don't want to be intimate with you. I don't want to sit next to you. I don't want to be kind to you. I don't want to be grateful and show appreciation. And more important than any of that, you've just shut down my kitty cat vault, and I'm not in the mood to engage in any kind of kitty cat closeness because you're mean and you're cruel. And I'm sorry, but the cat's going to
oh,
go into the closet until you're nice again.
the kitty cat vault. That's my new word. You're
Right?
right. That kitty cat vault gets locked up. That's very true.
Gets gets
Oh,
locked up
Dr.
and people
Shay.
say, "Oh, I don't know what happened. Oh, we've drifted." No, you haven't drifted. You're mean to each other. Be nicer to each other. Look how much effort we put at the beginning of the relationship. And then for our kids, surely more important than anything when we snap at them, we're saying to them that you deserve to be treated this way. Unconsciously, what we're saying is that you should tolerate this kind of behavior. And when someone speaks to you this way, it's normal and it's okay. It's not okay,
Oh, that's a big one, Dr. Shaheem. That's a big one.
right? Because that voice starts to become the voice in their head. It takes a
Oof.
tonality. Their inner critic becomes that snappy, irritated, frustrated voice that they may start using against themselves. And we don't want that to happen, right? And so, even though they're the closest people to us, we have this proximity irritation and micro resentments when we see these people every day, all day, and because of that, there's these micro resentments that build up, which means we collect a library of irritations of their habits, their tone, their sound, the way they talk, the way they eat. But these things should be addressed. If you have micro resentments, you have to have micro conflict resolutions so they don't build up. So then, you don't keep sweeping them under the rug because one day we trip over that rug and we don't want that to happen,
So
right? So,
The purpose of many of these sessions that we do, and we peel back topics, which, by the way, if anything ever resonates with you, or there's a burning question or something you ever want Dr. Shaheem to peel back on any of these sessions, you are more than welcome to reach out to her directly, and she will do that for us here. Obviously, in 20, 25, 30 minutes, you can't solve all of life's problems in here, but it's enough to get you thinking and get to things start moving up there, to start the hmms and the whys. And if you looked at those questions that Dr. Shaheem just brought to us a few moments ago, and you sit with this afterwards, and you had a yes, 5 yeses, maybe 10 yeses, what do we
Yeah.
do with that as we move through our day to day? What do you want us to do with that information, Dr. Shaheem?
Perfect. So even if you have one yes, look at what that particular element is and come up with a plan of how you can address it, how you can change it, how you can improve it. But if we look at this as a whole, definitely one of our main aims here is to make sure that we leave people with practical ways to address the topics and the subjects that we deal with. Okay. So in regards to this one of the first things we need to do is we need to regulate before we reconnect. So if you know you're stressed and you're irritated, make sure that before you step into those shared spaces, that you take a breath, you remind yourself, they're not responsible for the weight that I'm carrying, that I need to put this mountain down, so that I don't hit them with it. Even if it's just a 60-second breather, couple of deep breaths of consciousness, of deliberate stillness can stop this sort of emotional residue from spilling onto the people that you care about most, right? Now, that's what we can do when we're irritated. But why wait till we're there, Shali? You need to build emotional buffers into your day, right? Stress is going to happen. But if you're always going from chaos to communication and connection without decompressing, having those decompression spaces in between, eventually we're going to pay for it. Our relationships are going to pay for it. It chips away at the emotional safety of our loved ones, the foundation of our deep connections. It erodes trust. And you don't want people to walk around on eggshells around you, right? It's, oh God, mom's home or dad's home. Yeah, no one can talk or say anything. We don't want that to happen. So make sure that you are engaging in emotion, or you have emotional buffers in your day to day, whether that's meditation, swimming, exercise, whatever suits you, whatever serves you. And when it does happen, let's say, we're human, sure, we might snap where we nap. Name it before you aim it. So name it once it's actually happened, say it out loud. Apologize, be accountable. Say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean what I just said. I'm feeling edgy. It's not about you at all. So what you do is when you label your internal state, that creates the space between emotion and reaction, and it shifts you from this default modality, this autopilot, to an intentional responsibility of that was not right, and I'm now taking responsibility for it,
Mm.
and I'm going to practice micro repairs as well as, when these microaggressions happen, because I need to own it, especially when it's not fair, right? And finally, always use the stranger standard, the stranger test. Would I behave this way towards someone who is not as close to me as my family and loved ones? Would I behave this way on camera and allow it to be posted? And that stranger sort of standard, or the stranger test, what it does is that it asks you to kind of pause, to rephrase, and to give your to be able to for you to be able to give your loved ones the same decency you instinctively offer strangers, if not more. So love and closeness isn't a license to lash out.
Ooh,
Step back, pause, reflect, and treat the people who are closest to you with the kindness if you want to make sure that your relationships thrive and that you move towards the right direction together.
I don't know about our friends who are watching right now, but this has definitely got a lot of things moving around in my head, a lot of questions that I want to sit with more myself and have pause with them and answer some of these questions and ask myself why and look for areas that I may be able to try to do something differently and try something differently when I'm in those situations again, which is really what More Than Mind was born
Yeah.
because of this many years ago. And it's sitting down for us to constantly keep asking these questions in all different aspects and arenas in our life. And I love that Dr. Shaheem has provided these questions for us so you can go back and sit down and redo those questions if you need the time, but also
Yeah.
maybe reflect. What are these questions, Dr. Shaheem, that you want us to ask ourselves as we wrap up this session of More Than Mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, the magic happens in between these conversations when people take this information and apply it in their day to day lives and they continue thinking and reflecting on it. So, in relation to this topic of why we hurt the ones closest to us, I want you to think about who in your life bears the brunt of your unfiltered emotions. Who are they? And how has that become a familiar pattern? What healthier outlets could you use to release tension instead of dumping it and decompressing in that area amongst your dearest and nearest? And finally, what would change in your relationship if you chose more intentional responses? I love this question because the minute you start thinking about, my God, what if instead of snapping, what if I immediately say, babe, I've had a horrible day. Give me 20 minutes or half an hour. I'm just going to go take a shower and relax, and then
Oh,
you'll get a better version of me.
yeah, that's a lot of good stuff to think about, to process. And it really is one of these topics that I think is going to touch everybody's life with this particular one. Dr. Shaheem, thank you.
Thank you, Shelly June, and I am looking forward to us sitting down again and unwrapping another topic together.
More Than Mind.
More Than Mind.